So enlightenment through knowledge. And again, okay, if I want to study and become very smart, and I want to just gather as much knowledge as I can to myself, and I'm doing that from the perspective of just because I want to be smarter than you, it's because I want to know more than you, I'll never be enlightened. But if I'm going and trying to learn and reading and trying to gather more knowledge so that maybe one piece of this knowledge will unlock a mystery in my mind, I might become enlightened. To become enlightened, to become awake through meditation. This is for this path that we're talking about here every Sunday, this is really the optimal way to do this, is to learn how to be quiet, to stop the never-ending stream of thoughts and to find those quiet spaces between the thoughts and try to stay in that space, because then that's when we're actually going to hear the voice for God. That's actually when we're going to hear the Holy Spirit. Here is, of course, a symbol. But if I am practicing meditation so that I can just sit in the corner and have like experiences in the meditation, it can be pleasant. It can be good. I can actually become a more peaceful person, generally speaking. But it's really not going to lead me to, and what I'm specifically talking about is there's a couple of paths that lead to very colorful, almost hallucinatory kinds of visions, and some of the breath work will do that. And there's others that lead to this very extreme Kundalini effect of the electrical activity up and down the spine and raising the, and you go, oh, hey, wait a minute, teach me about that. I kind of like that. That sounds like a good thing. And this is when Jesus gave the instructions about how to pray, and he said, go into your closet. When he talks about temptation, these are actually the temptations that he's talking about, are the temptations that occur in prayer, in meditation, the temptations that occur there. To go off to just get lost in these sensory experiences, which can be, again, quite pleasant, but don't actually lead us to the place where we hear the voice for God. I'm not saying any of it's bad. I'm just saying that it can be a dead end, and that enlightenment will not come from just sitting in the corner and experiencing that coiled serpent running up and down your spine. Although everybody's experienced it, by the way, to some degree. When you've even said, "Oh, that's just got to rush." Well, you can. There are ways to just like keep that going, right? You went, "Oh, that's very interesting. I'm going to try that later." It's fine. All these things they can be experienced, but to wake up, we have to release all of the need for self. And so I want to wake up. I actually have to die to myself. To live in oneness with life, I have to die to myself. And this is what the ego just cannot tolerate. Just doesn't want anything to do with. I have to die to myself to wake up to life. I hope I can find this quickly, and it's not a big hassle. But so this is, and the ego says, well, listen, buddy, what you're talking about there, that is death. You're just killing yourself. And so this is why it continues to fight, because it doesn't it sees this. When I say death, to die to myself, it means that I'm putting my ego aside. That's what it means. And the ego is terrified of this. But the Course tells us that the ego isn't even real anyway. That I'm giving it all this power, and it's not even. It's just a thought system. So if you think about it, if you think it's just it's a construct of thoughts that are just kind of jumbled together, and it just keeps looping over and over again. And it's not even a real thing. So and now listen, I'll give you an example, and you've all experienced this too. where you were upset and you might have been yelling at someone or about to yell at someone, and you were seeing this like you could watch it from over here. You actually see yourself. You see yourself like going through all these gyrations of being all irate and everything, and you're kind of observing and you're seeing it. This is your real self is who's observing. And that observer can actually stop this madness that's going. So the more and more, this is one of the things, to become awake, we want to be able to observe. Sometimes we observe ourselves doing two things at once. Sometimes the whole committee's in session. Right? I can't find it. It's not, my phone's not working right, so I can't find it. I might have to go to something else. Okay, so the temptation to regard problems as many is the temptation to keep the problem of separation unsolved. So by me saying, oh yes, maybe your life is good, but I got problems. That's all well and good for you, but I got real problems, and you don't know, right? This is the ego attempting to keep this ball in play. Now, this is important. It's important to know that we just can't decide, like all of us right here. It sounds all well and good and stuff. It would be nice if we could just decide, okay, I'm waking up right now. That's just not how it works. It's this process, right? We go through this process, and whatever it is that triggers that perfect moment when we come to peace and awareness and connection and to hear the voice for God, it happens in a way that we can't even really explain how it happened. We just all of a sudden, there we are in the experience, except we know that these steps led along to that place. So no one could solve all the problems the world appears to hold. Isn't that that's the thing. We are powerless. We sit here and we look at the world and all the crazy things that are going on, and somebody suggests, well, we need to go out there and give service, and you go, who could fix this? Too many problems. But there's only one problem to solve, and that problem is the self-centeredness. And we solve that by dying to self and becoming alive, awake, alert, enthusiastic about life. All this complexity is but a desperate attempt not to recognize the one problem and therefore not to let it be resolved. If you could recognize that your only problem is separation, no matter what form it takes. So, here's the key. Every time a problem is presented, no matter what it looks like, say, this is self-centeredness. This is self-centeredness. That's what I need to see. This is separation. It's not the problem I think it is. What's really happening here is separation. No matter what form it takes, you could accept the answer because you would see its relevance. Perceiving the underlying constancy in all the problems that seem to confront you, you would understand that you have the means to solve them all. And you would use the means because you recognize the problem. When a problem occurs, stop. Don't do anything. Surrender. Make an attempt to surrender the ego to the power of God that is within you and all around you. The power of God that exists within us, between us, all around us. Stop. Come to the recognition that someone else has already overcome this problem. This is a beginning of restoration to sanity. To say, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to align my will with goodwill. We've got a problem, right? There's a solution to the problem that's most obvious to me right now. The solution to the problem is my self-centered solution. This is the most obvious thing. What I think in my little monkey mind, that this is the thing that is going to help me the most. I don't want that. That's not the solution I want. That's a temporary solution and will not satisfy me the way I think that it will. And so I say, I'll align my will with goodwill. I allow myself, I examine myself and the situation that's going on in the light of God's wisdom. Meaning I release that individual kind of judgment. I begin to understand that God stands under all that. At the foundation of everything real stands God. All this other stuff that's going on, that's not real. But that underneath, I get this understanding that God is present and there and a resource for me to use if I can just get my own selfishness out of the way. I make a decision to put first things first. Now, I know this sounds like a big, long thing to do in the midst of a problem that's happening in a second, but it can be done very quickly. I said I'm going to put first things first. In other words, I'm going to put God first. And let's just think about the God this way for the purpose of this, the unity of all life. God is just another word for the unity of all life. So what I'm going to do in regards to this particular problem that has just shown up is I'm going to put the unity of all life first. Because I am part of that. And so that is going to be what's best for me too. And then I'm going to make a decision to ask this unity, this power, this spirit, to relieve me of the negative things, the barriers that keep me unaware of love. And then I'm going to take responsibility for my life. I'm not going to blame it. The problem just showed up. This big freaking hairy problem just showed up in front of me, and it's somebody else's fault. No, it's my fault. Not my fault. My responsibility. I'm going to take responsibility for this thing. I'm going to take responsibility. Maybe I didn't do anything, but now it's here, and so it's my responsibility to do something with it. So I'm going to take responsibility for my life. And say, yes, this is mine. I'm going to do something. And then I'm going to apply love, the love of forgiveness to the situation. Yesterday I sent out a tweet that forgiveness, when you remember, forget. What? I know there were a number of people going, what? Yes, when I remember a resentment, when I remember a regret, when I remember something painful that actually anything can be done about right now, forget. That's forgiveness. Forget it again. Release everybody from the burdens of all these grievances. Let them go, for crying out loud. I guarantee if you let the other people go that you are holding grievances against, if you let them go, you will be free. Get into the moment. Stay in this moment with this problem. Don't project. The problem is sitting here. Do not project on how the effect of this problem is going to cascade into tomorrow. Stay in the moment. Stay focused on what's going on right now. Be quiet. Breathe. Remember to breathe. Those are guys playing racquetball now. They've caught on to what I do. When they see me start to get upset, these guys can't even speak English. They go, hey. Breathe. Open the mind for the guidance that's going to come. And then as a result of that breathing and being open to the guidance, you will wake up. You will wake up and you will see that the answer to every single problem is the same. The answer to every problem in the world is the same. Give love to the problem. That is the answer. It is never any different. It will never change. This is the thing that you can be so confident of. So, and it is just so. It is empowering. It is comforting to know that the answer to every problem is to give love or service, same thing, to the situation. Now, it may be helpful and it may be somewhat calming to go and give service somewhere else, but I'm going to tell you that if you get into a fight with your best friend, going and giving service at the Salvation Army probably isn't going to solve that problem with your best friend. You're going to feel good while you're giving service, because that's just how it works, but it just becomes another distraction. It just becomes another escape. So the answer to the problem that's in front of us, every single problem, is how can I give love to this problem? The ego doesn't know. The ego cannot help us in the answer to this question. Only Spirit knows. But Spirit will provide the answer if we ask. Wake the up.